When you think about it, it's insane to think that Lewis Hamilton is the only black driver in all of F1 right now. Unfortunately, this means he's faced a lot of discrimination in the past few years. Most recently, Nelson Piquet used a racial term multiple times when he was talking about Hamilton on a podcast last November. Now he says that it was ill thought out and he shouldn't have. Let's look at this incident and some more F1 news in today's video. So, how did this happen? Piquet, a Formula One driver from the 80s, got caught up in a controversy because of his interview and the term he used to refer to Hamilton. The Mercedes driver has been the victim of a lot of racism, especially in the F1 world. Piquet talked about Hamilton in his interview, referring to him as Neguinho in Portuguese. Even though it doesn't sound so good, apparently it just means little black guy in Portuguese. It's still understandable while Nelson Piquet would get caught up in controversy though, because the word does seem pretty racially charged. The retired racer released a statement and talked about how things were blown way out of proportion and how he didn't mean any harm at all. He also released a statement explaining his actions. Now, let's look at Nelson Piquet's explanation. Of course, after this interview resurfaced, the internet turned against this 69-year-old Brazilian, and he's been under a lot of scrutiny. He took the chance to explain himself, though, and admitted that the term he used was ill thought out, and that there's no excuse for it. He also took the time to explain why he used the word in his interview, though. According to him, the word is used widely in Brazil, especially in day-to-day life, and isn't offensive in the least. It's also been used for ages in Brazilian Portuguese to refer to a guy or person. Another thing Piquet added in his statement is that he'd never use the word that he's been accused of using in certain mistranslations of his interview. He said that he strongly condemns the suggestion that he used that word, because he would never, especially because of the fact that the term discriminates against someone based on the color of their skin. In the interview, Piquet used the Brazilian word 3 times when he was discussing a crash between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. This crash happened during the 2021 Grand Prix when both of them were battling for the lead. Their feud is very much alive this year, especially since Verstappen ended up winning the Grand Prix in 2021. It's also interesting that Nelson Piquet's daughter is currently dating Max Verstappen, but that's not all that Piquet said. Even though he clarified his position and explained how he didn't mean to offend anyone, Nelson Piquet also directly apologized to Hamilton, saying that he's apologizing wholeheartedly. He also said that he's apologizing to any other people who were affected by his comments. He added that Lewis is an incredible driver and that there's no space for discrimination in F1. Lastly, he just said that the mistranslations on social media are not correct and people should know that his intentions were clear. Right now, it looks like he's really sorry for the comments that he made and he clearly regrets them. Now, how did Hamilton react? Lewis Hamilton is a legend in Formula One racing and he's always uplifted the voices of his community. He dealt with everything super calmly and said that these archaic mindsets in the F1 community really need to change. Of course, fans agreed with him. Even though Piquet's comments seem pretty harmless, things are still pretty hard for people of color in the world today. The racer talked about how he's been surrounded by these backward mindsets his whole life, alone with the constantly being targeted because of the color of his skin. The 37-year-old racer also talked about how people have had enough time to learn and educate themselves, and now they just need to put it into action. It's definitely inexcusable to be ignorant in today's world when people have unlimited access to the internet. You can't possibly disagree with Hamilton on this because the guy's definitely saying the right thing. Lewis Hamilton is known for using the platform he has to uplift and make his community's voices heard. Last year at the Met Gala, he got a table for emerging American designers, athletes, and figures in entertainment in order to give them the attention they deserve. Among some of them were singer Kalani, model Alton Mason, athlete Shaw Carey Richardson, and designer Jason Rombert. We can definitely see why fans love Hamilton so much. He's a pro at racing and knows how to use his platform for good. Both these things are pretty rare, but still extremely important, especially when a lot of people still feel they're underrepresented in media and sports. If you're a fan of Formula One, you definitely saw the race at Silverstone for the 2022 British Grand Prix. Let's look at what happened at Silverstone. First, there was a huge accident in the beginning with Joe and the halo around the car basically saving his life. The driver who unintentionally hit him ended his race to make sure the marshals reached Joe in time to extract him from the car. Clearly, the race wasn't off to a great start, but it still restarted. Joe's injury could have been pretty serious if the halo wasn't there. Like we talked about before, his accident was really major because his car literally flipped upside down. This is the kind of stuff you think only happens in movies. The crash happened in the very first lap of the British Grand Prix and involved 3 cars. Gasly, who plays for AlphaTauri, tried to squeeze his car into a gap between Joe and George Russell. Obviously, this This didn't end well because his car ended up making contact with Russell, and then both of the cars crashed into Zhou's, causing his to flip by a whole 180 degrees. One of the cars also slipped into the gravel right above the tire barrier. Zhou is the first Chinese driver in the history of F1, so it was a big achievement for him to even be present. Fortunately, he made it out safe and was even conscious when he was taken to the medical center in Silverstone. In a tweet after the crash happened, he made sure to give a special thanks to his medical team. This wasn't the only crash in the first lap of the British Grand Prix. In another, Alex Albon and Sebastian Vettel were involved. Albon was also injured pretty badly, but is recovering well now. Fans sent a lot of love and warm wishes to the two racers who were in crashes that could have been fatal. Next, the race restarts and Max takes the lead. After the race restarted, Max Verstappen took the lead from Carlos Sainz after Sainz made a mistake, but soon after, Max's car was damaged and he dropped down to like 8th position. And that's how Sainz was in the lead again. Hamilton and Leclerc were excellent throughout the race and definitely had better pace speed than Sainz. There was a safety car during the end of the race, and Sainz, Hamilton, and Sergio Perez pitted to change their tires. Unfortunately, Ferrari kind of ruined Charles' race and didn't pit him, which meant everyone around him had fresh soft tires while he had hard ones. Everyone else ended up overtaking him, and he finished in 4th position. He basically just lost the race through misfortune, just like Max did because of the damage to his car while he was leading. This is just one event and so much happened. We can't wait to see what will happen in the next few races. Next up, the FIA to take action on flexi floors. So throughout the whole season, Mercedes have been struggling because of the porpoising, bouncing in their car, which is making them way slower than Ferrari and Red Bull. It looks like because of this, the FIA might have to change things around a bit. Initially, all cars have to go through a test to make sure that the teams comply with all of the rules, but there's no test for this floor flexibility. When the scrutineers found out that Ferrari and Red Bull were doing this, they were obviously not happy, so now Mercedes are pushing the governing body to introduce a technical directive. This will play to their advantage and could potentially slow down Ferrari and maybe Red Bull too, because of the loss in the aerodynamic performance. The cars have floors and there's this plank attached to it. According to the rules, the plank cannot flex or bend beyond a certain limit, 2 millimeters, but the floor of the Ferrari and the Red Bull is exceeding that limit, flexing up to 6 millimeters, and it's giving them an illegal advantage, which means that Ferrari has better car performance. Of course, this is a huge problem, and now what they'll do is introduce a directive. This will be in France in 2 weeks, and now all the cars will have stuffed floors, so they can't bend beyond the limit in the rule book. What do you guys think of this rule? According to a lot of sources, Red Bull isn't too worried right now, but who knows what the rest of the teams are thinking right now. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of Piquet's apology? Is it sincere? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.